Hello everyone, hope your day's going okay. Firstly, before we begin, I'd just like to say how sorry I am for the inconsistent uploads over the last few weeks. I've had a lot going on, so I haven't been able to put as much time as I would have liked into YouTube, but going forwards I will try to upload more frequently, and I hope you all can forgive me. Elden Ring's world is no stranger to war. War is seen everywhere in the lands between, and in today's video we're going to be delving into the secret civil war I have not seen hardly anyone talk about at all on YouTube. So sit back, relax, grab some popcorn if you want, and enjoy as we discuss this civil war. While civil wars can sometimes hold dozens of factions like Sengoku Japan, the civil war we're going to be talking about today is between two factions, the Roundtable Hold / the Golden Order, and those who live in death / those who serve death. While it's 100% possible to plan an entire playthrough and not hear once about this war, we are told snippets at the beginning of the game from both D and Fear.
Ah, a tarnished are you? I'm known as D. I hunt down those who live in death and weed their death root. Heed my warning. The village here has been touched by death.
Firstly, this tells us of a group who seeks to eradicate those who live in death. We later find out this is for two purposes. One, to feed Malekith's insatiable hunger, and to rid the world of the supposed plagues. The death root D talks about is directly linked to Godwyn the Goldern, or as he's known in the present, the Death Prince. On the night of the Black Knives, Godwyn the Goldern was the first of the demigods to die, and due to the method that his half-sister Ranni used, his soul was slain, but his body remained, becoming the first to live in death. Much is left to the imagination as to what occurred after the death of his soul. What we do know is that Godwyn became malformed, and as some would call him, hideous, and retreated deep underground to the deep root depths. With the knowledge that the lair of the Three Fingers is directly underneath the capital, and there is an entrance to the deep root depths from the Three Fingers, it's almost certain that after becoming one who lives in death, Godwyn slithered through the capital, before burying himself down, probably before falling through the root of the deep root depths, and making his nest at the great tree. And soon after, probably started spreading death through the roots of the lands between. Some might argue that with the great tree being the primordial form of the erdtree, and being that the erdtree connects to everything around the lands between, maybe death hijacked the roots of the lands between, spreading death. And while that is major speculation on my part, I do think it holds a lot of weight and has a high possibility of actually being the case. And while it's easy to assume that this whole death conundrum started with Godwyn, that is actually far from the truth. We learn this from the deathbed companion herself.
I was known as a deathbed companion. Where I come from, after I received the warmth and lively vigour from a number of champions, I lay with the remains of an exalted noble. To grant him another chance at life, to do so is the purpose of my being. But before I could bear the noble into new life, I was awakened by the guidance of grace and chased from my birthplace. Pray, be kind. Despite all that, I still wish to be a deathbed companion. So please, let me hold you like this, as often as it takes.
This process sounds almost exactly like what Godwyn intentionally or unintentionally does, creating those that live in death in the lands between. This also adds up considering the order of death in the lands between is confined to just the lands between. To our understanding, the lands outside the lands between could have their own orders. Perhaps the one Fear is from, was, or is in an age of the Dustborn, and as Fear was spurned by the grace of God and brought back from the dead, maybe she seeks to turn this fractured world into a new age of the Dustborn, like her homeland. While we do not know of the beginning of Fear's steps towards this goal, we do know that it strongly opposed the Golden Order. As we learn in Fear's missed item description, she created certain incantations that only affected members of the Roundtable Hold, suggesting even more at the further conflicts with the Golden Order. It is also most likely that over the ages she spent at the Roundtable Hold, she planned diligently in the shadows, for after an untold amount of time, we arrive at the Roundtable Hold, and yet she's still there? We are told multiple times by D of this civil war, and with Fear probably being the main conspirator, there is no doubt that she worked in the shadows until a worthy candidate arrived, worthy candidate to usher in the age of the Dustborn. And once that time finally arrived, she set her plan into motion, semi-tricking us into the actions which led to the death of Dee. No matter the story in our world, or Elden Rings, and in, well, any fiction or non-fiction, war is always bloody and casualties always follow.
Hark, Roundtable. Disturb not the death of Godwyn, the exalted. We, who humbly live in death, live in waiting. To one day, welcome our Lord. What right does anyone have to object?
And while this is on the speculatory side, we can infer that there were a lot of skirmishes, hence Fear's Mist. So maybe in some future DLC we'll get some more info on these skirmishes, as I'd really like to know what sort of battles occurred and the warriors that faced them. And also considering that the DLC seems to have some kind of connection with death, considering all the marks on the erdtree, perhaps we might get some more info, but that's just a theory. And after an untold amount of time, we, the player character, finally make our way through the deep-root depths, past Godwyn into Fear, where she speaks some of her last words and conceives the rune of death.
I will soon lay with Godwyn to conceive my child, the rune. Brandish my rune, and take for yourself the throne. This is goodbye, my dear, but I am satisfied. I choose to lie with Godwyn of my own will, not the remains of one chosen for me, and I will bear a child who will inherit your warmth too. What greater blessing could there be but to be born a deathbed companion?
Sadly everyone, that is the end of the video. If you did enjoy the video, please consider leaving a like and subscribe, and if you didn't, a dislike and any constructive criticism would be greatly appreciated as well. Hope to see you in the next one, and may you all find your worth in the waking world. Bye everyone.